The most common question I get asked on YouTube and on Discord is how to be more consistent. Consistency is key to climbing the ranks, and everyone knows this. You can't be playing like a diamond on one day and gold on another. However, the answer isn't as simple as telling people to practice more or anything like that. Hi guys, this is Eggwick, and today I'm going to teach you how to deal with inconsistency in Valorant. If you like this video, please consider subscribing for more quality Valorant content in the future. Also, I've recently just launched a Discord server where I'll be answering questions and doing VOD reviews. Link's gonna be in the description. Now let's get into it. First, we need to understand that consistency is relative. You're not always going to have the same performance because the variables in each game are not constant. You're not going to be playing against the same set of agents, the same map, or even the same skill level of players each time. The goal is to minimize inconsistency to a point where your worst performance will still be pretty good. That said, consistency can depend on how much the enemy team capitalizes on your mistakes. In one game, you could be playing against a team that doesn't use utility to counter operators, which results in you getting a bunch of kills. But in the next game, the enemy team is coordinated and executes attacks properly, making it hard for you to get those same types of kills. Even your teammates are factors to inconsistency. Each player has a different view on how to play the game, so if you're playing solo queue, this can be a problem when you and your teammates don't see eye to eye. These are things that are out of your control. You can't dictate what type of team you'll be playing against or what kind of teammates you're going to have. So let's focus on the things that you have full control of. First are your fundamentals. In every match, no matter what agent you're playing, the base mechanics and concepts of Valorant will always be relevant. This means that crosshair placement, peeking, positioning, game sense, and economy usage are all critical because they're concepts that play out in every round. Learning these concepts and applying them properly will definitely make you a more consistent and complete player. If you have great fundamentals, then enemies will have a harder time exploiting holes in your gameplay. For example, knowing when to full buy and when to save is something that you can always be consistent in. And if you economize properly, it'll increase the chances of winning the match. Your aim might not always be consistent. On some days you'll have insane aim, and on some days you won't. Crosshair placement goes a long way because it isn't as reliant on raw aim, and if you have good crosshair placement, duels essentially become point-and-click scenarios. Also, you should be warming up before playing your first competitive match. It's important that you do so to reduce the chances of missed shots because of cold hands. Next is having an adaptable playstyle. Being adaptable and versatile is essential to being consistent. This might come as a shock to you, but it's the truth. However, this isn't possible if you're not a complete player, so knowing the concepts in the first point is a prerequisite to having a versatile playstyle. You can't adapt to something if you don't have the fundamentals to do so. If you have a static playstyle, which means that you're playing the same way each game, you're going to run into players that don't do well against you, and players who know exactly how to counter you. This is where you need to be flexible in terms of playstyle. One of the worst things you can do is play on autopilot, which means that I'm not actively thinking about what I'm doing and I'm just making decisions without considering the effects. While this can work sometimes, autopilot becomes a main source of frustration when it works in one game and then doesn't work in another, hence the inconsistency. For example, playing aggressively on defense is something you like doing. It's gotten good results in the past, so you play this way every game. Some teams won't expect you to push and will get caught off guard, while others will be prepared for it. The same goes for teammates. Some will peek off your entry, while others will bait you. In order to solve this, you need to be mindful of your choices and make decisions based on how your team and the enemy team are playing, and not what's worked for you in past games. You can't expect players to behave in a certain way, although there are some patterns, like running away from a Raze ultimate. Sometimes it might be hard to see the flaws in your own gameplay. I suggest reviewing your matches so that your bad habits become easier to identify and fix. Either way, changing up your playstyle to fit the current scenario is a great way to improve consistency. Another factor you can control with regards to consistency is your mental state. If you're tilted, you won't be able to play properly. Your judgment and decision making will deteriorate, and you're probably not going to have fun playing the game as well. This is important because you'll play better when you're not as stressed. I've found that my best games, in terms of my own performance, are when my teammates are cracking jokes in between rounds or just having a good time. But great teammates are hard to come by, so you need to learn how to deal with toxicity and avoid tilt. There was a recent Reddit post by user S. MacArthur about the one strike rule that I agree with a lot. Basically, at the first hint of toxicity or negativity, you mute the player. Even if you won't have voice comms from that player anymore, muting him won't affect your chances of winning too much, as you won't have to deal with the toxicity the entire game. Getting tilted is far worse than losing comms from one player. While this is a great method, if you're already tilted, this doesn't apply. You need to also be able to reset your mental state. Everyone has different ways of doing it, but personally, I like taking a 5-minute break and then hopping into a deathmatch to distance myself from tilting or toxic experiences. Last but not the least is find compatible teammates. This is optional, but it's very helpful. The best teammates aren't the ones with the highest skill level. If you're around the same rank, chances are they're also stuck there for a reason. Finding teammates who complement your playstyle or understand how you play will make things a lot easier, as you don't have to deal with strangers and constantly adjust. Now, there's a lot to learn from randoms too, but having a dedicated stack or even 1 or 2 players you can trust removes another coin toss element of solo queue. This one's optional because I understand that finding compatible teammates is hard, but I just wanted to put this out there because it's helped me become more consistent. I just want to quickly mention that slumps are real. Everyone goes through them, even pro players. Sometimes there isn't much you can do to get out of a slump. Everyone has their own methods of dealing with it, so it's best to find out what works for you. And please, try not to be too mean to someone who's slumping. Either way, I hope this guide has been helpful. In multiplayer games like Valorant, there's bound to be some level of inconsistency in your play. The best we can do is try to minimize it so that you can perform at peak performance often. That's it for this video. If you have any comments or suggestions, feel free to leave them down below. This is Egwick, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.